Hey all, Pixel here, Improbable Garage, and we've got the Passat that I drove across the country, and we're gonna give it a little bit of love. For those of you who didn't see my road trip videos, this is a 2004 Passat Turbo 5-speed 4Motion that I bought off a friend in California for $1,000 and road tripped across the country. It did really well on the trip, but I don't want to own this car long term, so my plan was always to sell it on this coast for hopefully enough to help pay for that trip, or at least get my money back out. The thing is, very few people want a Passat with a giant Acme rocket on one side and tentacles on the other, and a variety of mechanical issues. So we're going to give this car a little bit of love. It deserves it after what a great road trip car it was. So it's got 4 known issues. The right front CV joint is just about destroyed. I have the axle for that. It has a broken motor mount somewhere that you can very much feel when you drive. The AC doesn't work, supposedly because the orifice tube is clogged and the ABS light is on. So I have the fix for the axle. I need to figure out which of the mounts is broken, see how much that is, replace that. I'm going to buy an orifice tube and a dryer and take that out, clean the AC system, put those parts in, back it down and put Freon in it, and then the AC should work just fine. And I have to find a way to pull the code for that, it's not for the airbag light, because unfortunately my little reader won't do it. And then of course obviously we got to do something with it aesthetically here. While I love this, nobody else does. So, and this was a very quick and dirty paint job in a parking lot. You can see it's runs and everything. Like, it was never intended to be a good job. So what I'm going to do, I've already decided, is this is going to get a sand down to smooth it out. I'm going to clean all the paint where I went over trim and whatnot. And then I bought a couple cans of the same heavy duty graffiti paint in slate, just a simple gray. And the whole car is going to get that because the paint was already ruined on this car before I painted it and before my friend Lace painted the front of it. So basically, yeah, all the currently blue stuff is going to end up that slate gray. It should look respectable enough for an inexpensive car. The trim is going to get some black trim paint, and it should end up looking decent. And also I'm going to give it a very thorough clean in and out. The inside is grimy. It was already a little grimy because it had been mostly sitting and barely used, and then my road trip did it no favors. So the entire interior needs a clean. There's a bunch of old bumper stickers on it that need to come off before I paint it. I've already taken all my road trip stickers off. And yeah, I'm just going to give it some love, make it look a little nicer, make it run a little bit better, and then somebody should be able to get a nice, decently reliable and completely rust-free California car, which I know somebody in New England's definitely going to want. So yeah, let's get started. First thing is I'm going to get my partner to help me see if I can figure out what that, which motor mount is bad. And then what I want you to do, because the parking brake is on and it's not going to roll, is just take your foot off the clutch until the engine is about to die, and then put your foot back in, and then just do that over and over again. Okay. Hold off, I'm going to go around the other side. Okay. All right. We moved it out to the street to do that test, just so that if it went wrong, we didn't drive it into the garage and break anything. But you saw how much the engine moved, but unfortunately I couldn't see which mount it was because it's somewhere lower down. So I'm going to have to end up putting this probably up on ramps or on stands and get under there with a pry bar and pry at the engine and see if I can see which mount it is. So, all right. So we are under the car. This is the oil pan for reference, and this mount right here is, I'm pretty sure, our culprit, because one, I can get the pry bar in all the way around it, but also I don't think I should have that much play with this tiny a pry bar. So yeah, it's this front mount that is completely just destroyed. So I'm gonna have to order that. Like I said, I have the half shaft for that side. Fortunately, the two rear mounts back there seem totally fine. I can't budge those very well at all, so it's definitely, which makes sense. This one would take most of the torque force, given how far the engine kind of hangs out here. So we're gonna order that. We're gonna order the orifice tube in the dryer. Other than those things, their mechanic looked over everything. They actually took it to the mechanic to get an oil change right before I took this on the trip. And there's some minor stuff like the rear end is seeping a little bit, things like that. You know, some of the brakes are at the point, you know, some of the brakes are like, yeah, they're going to need them in the next, you know, 20,000 miles or something. But those are the things that were dire. So I'm going to take care of those. So whoever buys this will need to do work on it. I mean, it's a 20-year-old car, but they won't have any like scary or likely to fail inspection problems. All right, went through with the pinstripe wheel, got all the old bumper stickers off, and now they're soaked in Goo Gone and have some plaster cracks stuck over them so that I can get the glue off. Now recognize this one, for those of you who know that band. So that's going to sit and just soak into the glue, and hopefully I'll be able to get that off pretty easily, and so that those panels will be able to get painted without me just painting over more stickering. All right, I scrubbed at these, got as much as I could off, actually went at them with some parts of it with the wheel again, and then applied it again. Some of this glue is really tenacious, but I'm making progress. While I was been waiting on that, I've been starting to sand this side to get it smooth. I think I've been coming through to the metal, unfortunately, despite the fact that I'm using I'm using 400 grit, so I shouldn't be, but I think that's metal. I'm not 100% sure because the light's bad, but if it is, I'll just hit it with some primer before I paint it. It'll be fine, but this is all much smoother than it was. I did the left half of the roof, I've got to do the right half of the roof, especially where I tested paint on it. And then this whole side needs to be sanded. This has actually got multiple coats because I tried to do a sort of National Lampoon family truckster, and that didn't work at all. You can see that paint was actually a real big problem. You can see the massive sags from it. So that's now I got green, and then that failed paint, and then more green, and then these tentacles. So this side's going to need a bunch of work too, but I'm making progress. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be smooth enough that you can't see this pattern through the top color that I'm doing. So yeah, making progress. I did half the hood, but I don't like it. I'm going to do it again, and then do more. I'm not filming me sanding because it's bloody boring to do. It's going to be even more boring to watch. But I'm hoping by later this week, before the parts even come in, I'm hoping to have this thing painted and the trim cleaned up so that it'll look respectable while it's sitting around my house waiting for parts to show up. All right, I think I'm done for the evening. That's a massive improvement in smoothness, even though it looks way worse now. I got most of the drips and runs on the flat surfaces. Areas like the cove of the fender in here need to get done by hand. And then obviously things like the rails and the edge of the roof and the bumpers and stuff are all going to need to be hand sanded. But it's a huge chunk of it knocked out, especially a lot of the worst of the drips knocked out. Hood is all sanded. All of this is going to get gone over again by hand just to make sure. Probably going to actually wet sand it all by hand just to really see what I can do to get it as smooth as possible. Not that it's going to matter because the paint I'm using is not super smooth, but at least, you know, best prep surface gives me best chance. Turns out there was some tape residue from when they had taped up this window. This is a replacement window, and there was some tape residue that hadn't gotten completely off, so that's why that's there. But made progress, got a bunch of the sanding taken care of, the stickers off. I'm really debating, if the paint comes out good, I may actually buy new headlights and taillights to clean the car up, because it's like $200, and I think that'll seriously improve it. Although I guess it depends on what the car looks like, whether I think that's going to make a huge difference in terms of saleability. Anyway, I'm blathering because I'm tired, and I'm also very gross. So I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to go inside. I'm going to order those parts, and I will pick this up. Alright, it's a little while later, and I've got stuff. So my junkyard trip got me the fuel filler door of the sedan that we hope is going to work. This cover for the roof rack that was missing. This cover thing goes right above the mirror there. So somehow this one managed to get very, very dirty. But the other one's, this fabric's peeling off, and a button for the e-brake that the chrome hasn't come off of because that was really, really bothering me. And then parts wise, I've got my two motor mounts, that front mount, and I managed to mess up, and the kit for replacing the orifice tube came with the O-rings, and it came with the dryer, which I somehow didn't realize it came with the dryer, so I ordered another dryer. So now I have a spare dryer I need to return, but I'd rather have too many parts than not enough. My goal for today is to get all of this dealt with, and at least some of this dealt with. Some of this may wait on the interior painting, or the exterior painting, and I'm hoping to get a little bit of that done today too. Alright, I don't know when this fell over, so I'll find that out in the editing process. But anyway, that could have gone much better. I mean, this is the front thing, needed to be replaced, but that whole thing turned into a mess. Don't do what I did. I'm going to show you the right way. If you need to replace these front mounts, this whole thing is a cradle for the mount. There's a bolt here and two over here, and then this comes down, and that's how you're supposed to replace the mount. I was jacking the entire engine up because I'm used to doing that on American cars, and I broke something. That's all coolant. I haven't investigated yet, but I broke something because it just started pouring coolant out. So that's fun. The thing is, this front mount, that thing that was all destroyed, the only way I could get this out was to jack the engine way up to pry this bracket off, because there's like a thick metal rod that sticks out that thing is on, that is welded to this front assembly, so I don't know how else I'm supposed to get it. So you don't have to jack the engine up to do these over here and here, but you do need to jack the engine way up to do that, so I don't know what the solution is there. But I need to figure out, obviously, where that leak is coming from. I also tried to do the axle, and the end of the axle, I don't know how much you can see, but the end of the axle that's bolted to the transmission there is bolted with weird, like 12-point Torx head bolts. So I need to get a socket that fits that before I can get that off. So that's fun. So that's why I switched to doing the motor mounts, just because I needed to go take a trip to do that. So I figured I would do another thing that I could do right now. But yeah, now I'm in a situation of I've broken something else, so I'm now further from fixed. Alright, now I'm really confused. I started the engine because down in here, where I can't even effectively show you, there's a hose, the one that I'm pushing on, I have no idea how visible this is, that is wet. So either it was what was leaking, or the junction just above was leaking, but the junction above seems dry. But there's nothing dripping now, and I started the engine and it's not leaking. So my only theory is that one of the connections just got torqued enough, like the hose got pulled enough, that in that angle there was a leak, but as soon as it came back down, there wasn't one. But I'm going to let this run. I'm going to babysit it and see if the engine comes up to temperature, it starts to leak. But I'm very confused. At the very least, well, one thing is done. The motor mounts are done, even if I may have added a new thing to the list. So I think the next thing after I babysit this is to get the socket so I can do the axle. I ran it up to temp and let it just sit there and idle for, I don't know, 10 minutes plus. and no leak, so I must have just tweaked something enough to temporarily cause it to leak, so yay. I did manage to get both fenders, the hood, this door all sanded down, did the sort of this side of the roof around all the edges and stuff here. Still got a long way to go, but I'm making progress. I'm gonna have to do some detail work still, like I want to clean this lock cylinder off and get that back down to metal. Obviously I want to get the overspray off as I go along. I'm not trying to clear the chrome trim of paint. That's just going to be impossible and it's not worth it. I did go in and take this protector off over here because it was peeling, so I got to go at that with a little Goo Gone. Where I Goo Gone stuff before isn't completely gone. It needs another go. That one is being really difficult, but you know, making progress. That's all right. Went and got the sockets I need. If you're doing this job, you need a 12mm, what's called a triple square socket. It's not a 12-point socket. It's basically 3 squares in a, 12-point form. And that's what actually fits these bolts. They are a pain in the butt to get off. These weren't too bad because the car's from California, but they were still rough. Unfortunately, the 2 that I had tried to use a regular multi-point were in really rough shape, so I had to hammer the socket into these to get these 2 off. If this was a nicer car, I would pause and buy all new bolts, but I'm going to try and install these 2, and if they don't work, then I'll buy replacements. But yeah, because I'm going to sell this thing for very little, so I'm not going to put a bunch of money into this. But now that that end's out, I had to put the bolt back in this end and put 2 lug studs in so that the rotor would move with the hub, so I could then jam a screwdriver in here to keep it from rotating so that I could pry it loose. So now I gotta get the rest of the axle out. I'm really hoping, I don't think so, but I'm hoping with that it's possible to get this axle out without having to crack a ball joint, but we shall see. And the axle shaft is in. Getting it in, I couldn't get it out or the new one in with everything attached, but I did remove the tie rod and that made it possible. And considering how much I hate on Volkswagens, credit where credit's due, this is a great tie rod design because there's a bolt here as well as the pinch nut. So what I was able to do was loosen this bolt most of the way out, so it was a thread or 2, take out this pinch bolt and nut, and then hammer on that to push the tie rod down, because it's not a tapered fit like most, it's just a conical. And once I got to the bottom of that, I took this bolt, put it in there, and hammered it the rest of the way out gently so I wouldn't ruin the threads. And it came right out. It was really easy to put back in. So that's a good design. I like that. I don't like those 12-point things on there. That's stupid. There's no reason those need to be there. They could easily be regular bolts, and it would make everybody's life easier. But that's in. That's all tightened down. And I went through, tightened them all up, and then rotated it through, tightening them a second time to make sure they're good and snug. So that's all good. This is in. And now I just have to put the tire on, and the half shaft job is done. Another evening of work, and I've got the front bumper sanded, both sides sanded all the way to the back, roof rail sanded, roof sanded. The only things that aren't sanded are the back part of the rear bumper and the rear hatch, both because they still have goo on them. So I need to finish getting that glue off, but this whole side down here is also all dealt with. So I'm gonna be done for tonight, but this now just needs to be washed and I can paint those parts of it, and I think I'm going to do that, because even if the whole thing's not painted, it'll just look less, well, horrible like it does now with a half sanded down graffiti paint job. I was going to work on the AC, but I can't find any of it. I suspect it's all back here, possibly under that, but I was looking for the dryer and where the connector where the orifice tube goes into the pipes, and could not find them. So that's if it means I have to pull the whole front bumper off, I may end up just saying screw it, giving the parts to the next owner but not doing them. But my shoulder hurts like hell, but I'm really happy that I got this all sanded. That's a massive milestone. All right, I'm on my morning break from work. It's supposed to rain later today. It's supposed to rain for the next several days. So I'm trying to get as much of this painting in as I can. I just very quickly, this all got very thoroughly wiped down with the Prepsol to get all the remaining sanding dust off. I've masked it. I'm basically going to do the part of the bumper there, the whole side here, and that roof rail. Just because I got to get some paint on this thing so it can move forward. So yeah, I'm going to bang all that out. I'm not doing the bumper. The hood I wiped down, but I don't think I'm going to do it right now. I think I'm going to worry about that separately. But if I can get all of this covered on this side, I'll be happy. Two things. One, I'm going to real quickly see if I can get this off with lacquer thinner and maybe some scrubbing. And if I can, great. I'll mask that and paint it. And if not, I'm just going to stick a piece of tape over that, paint the door, and then come back, clean that, and repaint that bit. This over here, where I pulled off the protector, I haven't gotten all the goo off. So I'm going to slap a piece of tape over that and do that separately. Because like I said, I gotta get paint on it, because if it's going to keep raining, anytime I can move forward on it, I have to steal, because otherwise it's just going to sit here for more and more weeks. All right, well, it's painted. That's the best I can say about it. Both cans of paint were giving me trouble. The first one, I was trying to use a wide nozzle, which decided it wanted to spray in like 3 specific places and nowhere else. So I had to swap back to an original nozzle, which just also wasn't spraying well. Both were spitting, and the second one was spraying inconsistently from about half the can on down. So the finish is not great, but I mean, it looks more like a normal car now than it did, which is an improvement. I completely forgot those 2 things I said I was going to do beforehand, so I threw some tape on that, I threw some tape on that. 2 things that came up, that decided to bubble for no apparent reason, and that decided to bubble for no apparent reason. So, and I can't tell if this is a drip I put in it over here, or if that was a drip that I didn't sand out properly. Either way, it's not great. If I have time, I will sand that down and repaint that piece. And if I have time, I'll sand that down and repaint it as part of the whole rear bumper. If I don't, it'll stay like that. I mean, I'm not going to get much for this car regardless, so I need to stop being quite so obsessive about perfection on it and more obsessed with finishing it. But I mean, it looks okay. That slate gray is the same one I used on the hood and the roof of the Cube over there, so it's a little bit more brown when it's this much of it, but it's still fine. It looks good. Looks more saleable than it did. That's the important part. So I'm gonna rip all of this tape off before the paint fully dries, and then I gotta go back into work. All right, I didn't film myself doing it because I just wanted to get it done, but I got a bunch done. So bumper is entirely painted, hood is entirely painted, this entire side is painted. So now all the stuff that had graffiti art on it, body panel wise, has been painted. So massive step. So happy about that. Now the lower trim there is going to get repainted black. I'm going to get some of that fusion paint. Ditto the lower trim on the front here and all down the other side in the rear bumper. So that'll really make that look nice again. I still have to get the crud off of there. I've got it soaking in goo gone right now. I did clean this off and paint it, so that's done. So right now the roof is sanded, but needs to be cleaned, masked off, and painted. And the entire tailgate needs to be sanded, as does the rear bumper, so that can go on. And I need to grab the replacement filler door and sand that and paint it. But the car already looks so much better, so much more respectable. The reason this headlight is out is because I was hunting down the AC parts, and the dryer is down in there. The options were, I think I can get it this way. The other option is take the whole front bumper off, which I didn't want to do. The grill came out just because it's easier to paint that way. And then the orifice tube and the fills are under this, so I have to take this plastic thing off. I'm going to change the dryer out first, put that all back together, and then do this half just so that I don't tear even more of the engine compartment apart. But yeah, huge progress. The car looks so much nicer now than half sanded of my half-assed graffiti. So I'm really happy about that. Like, I could park this out in front of the house now without feeling slightly embarrassed or feel like it's drawing unnecessary attention. Wow, could not say that sentence. So unfortunately, I think I might be done for tonight because I got to go cook dinner, and I don't know if the weather's going to get worse or not, because it's nice right now, but it's supposed to It's supposed to rain tonight. So I may come out here and do some more. I may not, but either way, great day, huge day. Wrong button. Did not have the camera set up right, but I painted the bottom of the front bumper and the bottom over here black, quick and dirty, but it looks so much better than with the overspray on it. I still have to unmask the fog lamps, I just realized. Got that all done all the way around. Yeah, so the next thing are still this trim and the whole ass end of the car. Part of the reason I keep putting this off is this thing. I think I'm just gonna have to give up and just do my best and paint it. And then I don't know what to do with the 4Motion and the Passatt. I think I'm leaning towards just painting them and then either coming in with a brush, painting them black, or coming in and sanding the face of them off so that they've got the silver again. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I'm putting way more effort into this than I should be, but whatever. Well, hell. I just ruined a roll of tape. But on the plus side, bumper's all sanded, tailgate is all sanded, and I washed all the door jambs, mostly because I needed to wash the back one anyway. Ugh, that is disgusting. Oh, it's gooey. Oh, God, that's disgusting. Oh, I need to go buy some tape now. Ugh. But yeah, so the hatch and bumper need to dry, and then they need a final wipe down, masking and painting. I need to buy tape. Because I'm running low on the gray, I'm going to paint those two panels first, and then depending on how much paint I have left, I'll decide what I'm doing with the roof. If I'm confident I have enough gray, I will paint the roof gray. If I am not confident, I'll probably paint it black. I also scrubbed this piece of trim of all of its paint all the way around, so it's clean. I went in with a razor blade and took out the tape that had been holding various stickers on the inside. I haven't cleaned the inside of the glass, but I got that off. So yeah, constant slight improvements here. I'm putting off doing the AC stuff because I don't want to deal with it. But I'm going to have to at some point, or just decide I'm not. But I need to finish the outside regardless, so it's a good... If I'm going to put it off, I'm going to put it off by doing something productive, so that's at least a positive there. Next day, and I did the tailgate and bumper. I'm just trying to get this done so I keep forgetting to film. But yeah, bumper's all painted, tailgate's all painted. I masked this off. I obviously masked the lights and stuff in there off, but I didn't mask the two badges because there's just no good way to do it. I think I've decided I'm leaving them like that because that looks bad, but intentionally bad. Whereas if I try and like paint them or something, I think it's going to just end up looking frankly worse. So the next thing I need to do is fix the headlights because I managed to get overspray really badly on both of them, and they were already in bad shape. So I'm going to sand them down and then maybe shoot them with some clear or something just to clean that mess off of them. All right, working on the Volkswagen again. I changed out the dryer down there. Other than the logistics of reaching the bolts that hold it on to get it in and out, that wasn't too bad. And then, yeah, this pipe used to be over there. It had this stuffed in that end of it. This is the This is the orifice tube, and as you can see, yep, it is completely effed up and clogged. From what I understand, the desiccant in the dryer starts to break down, gets into the system, and does that. Because the orifice tube is basically a little, filter. It's not its only purpose, but that's what it functions as. So all I have to do basically is shove this back up in the tube, change out these gaskets, and then put it all back together, and then vac the system down and fill it with Freon and a little bit of oil, and the AC system should work properly. Alright, update. Valve is in. New seals on those O-rings. I got this under vacuum right now at about 15. See if it's going to hold. I sanded and polished the headlights. Basically, I had to go from 400 because they had some deep scratches in them. But 400 up to 1200, and then polish and glaze. And they came out pretty good. They're still very slightly foggy. If I went through and did another, like maybe a 1600, and then maybe even some micro mesh type stuff, but they're very presentable now. They look exponentially better than they did before. I'm going in for dinner momentarily, but probably tomorrow I'm going to mask them off. I'm going to shoot them, clean them, mask them off, shoot them with some clear, just to hopefully keep them from fogging right back up again for the new owner. And yeah, mechanical stuff other than reassembly, other than Freon and reassembly should be done. I've got the grill I want to paint and then pop on. Whole thing needs a wash, and the roof needs to be painted, and the interior needs to be done. So I was about to say I'm almost done, but I'm not, sadly, but I am getting there. I tried polishing that while I had the stuff out, and all the fogging and stuff is on the inside, so it didn't make a lick of difference, but it was worth a shot anyway. But I'm gonna go get dinner. Alright, my desire to be done overtook my desire to film, so I didn't. Sorry, but let's take a look at what I ended up with. So here we are. One finished, as far as I'm going to, Passatt wagon. So the roof ended up painted black, which did not want to come out good at all, and ended up with this texture. Oops, almost done. It ended up with that texture on it. There's nothing I could do about it. But whatever, it's at least painted. It's better than the half sanded that it was when I got it. But the entire exterior has been painted. All the lower areas have been painted. I took the front grille apart and painted it. I clear coated this headlight and it crackled. So I'm not clear coating that one, even though they now don't match quite, because I don't want to do that to both of them. The AC system I charged, and it immediately lost its charge, or not, didn't charge. I vacuumed it. And it almost immediately lost its vacuum. So I fiddled with some stuff, checked for loose connections from what I'd done, tried it again, seemed to hold vacuum, so I charged it, and in like 5 minutes it had lost the charge. So there's some bigger problem. I don't know how long the AC hasn't been working properly, so I don't know if it's something I did or something that was existent, but I just decided I'm not gonna fight with it anymore, because it's not gonna make that much difference at this price point. The interior, I completely cleaned everything. I haven't done the carpets yet because I can't find my vacuum, but I've scrubbed everything in here. I still have to replace the shifter button, but I can't find it right now. I put it down somewhere and I've lost it, but cleaned all in here. This all looks a heck of a lot cleaner and nicer in here. So, and I scrubbed the wheels to within an inch of their life to get all the brake dust off of them. I think it came out looking decent. It's definitely way more saleable than it was before I did all this work. So it's going to go back up on Facebook Marketplace with new photos, and hopefully somebody will buy it, and then I will be no longer having, again, a station wagon that sits in my driveway, not getting driven. Alright, well, just sold the Passatt. Took a while because Rhode Island took their sweet time with the title, but got a lot of tire kickers, a lot of nonsense. A lot of Volkswagen guys who thought they could, like, nickel and dime me. Or worse, were like, it's spray painted. I'll only give you $500 for it. Or my favorite, the carpets are dirty. Are you going to replace the carpet that is part of the sale? It's a 20-year-old Volkswagen. Get over yourself. But anyway, sold it. Ended up, I was asking 25. Guy offered me 18. We settled on 2. Happy with that. So all total, with the parts I put into it, I probably made, I don't know, $500-600 back out of it, which offset the cost of the trip. So that was what I wanted. So I'm happy with that. So thus ends the saga of owning the Passatt, and it's going to somebody who's real happy with it. It's going to be his like non-work truck car. He wanted something like better in gas mileage, good in the snow, whatnot. So yeah, he seemed very happy to get it. He was glad that it was a California car, so that it would last a while. So sounds like he's planning to hold on to it. So yeah, goes on to its next adventure. Thank you all very much for watching. Talk to you later.